Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Becoming an Elite Financial Advisor with Sten Morgan. This week we have a unique episode, and we just finished up a day-and-a-half training for a How to Charge Live event here at our offices just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And we decided to go straight to the source and invite 3 attendees from the event upstairs to our podcast recording space and ask them what they thought about the event, what they're going to do differently when they go home, and some other questions that we think that you'll find helpful and encouraging if you've ever considered coming to the event, and also just understanding what's the thought process on what do most advisors change about their business when they go home to implement. Because as we say, it has to matter on Monday. So I think you'll enjoy these 3 short conversations. And if you're interested in attending our How to Charge Live event, the next one's in January of 2024. You can find out more at howtochargelive.com. And now here's some of our friends talking about their experiences this week here at our How to Charge Live event. Thanks. So if you could just tell folks who are watching or listening who you are, where you work, and then we'll get into some, just a little bit about your practice, maybe how long you've been in business, and then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, Tim Dyer. My firm is creatively named Dyer Wealth Management.
Love it.
I'm based in La Jolla, California, and I've been in the financial services industry since about 1998.
Awesome. So we were actually talking about this as we were climbing the stairs. What's been your experience with other events you've been a part of in the past? Like, what kind of events did you go to? Mm-hmm. Why did you go to them? And sort of what were the pros and cons of those events?
Yeah, I'm sort of a grizzly veteran of the mastermind circuit and whatnot. And, you always try to take nuggets away from some of those things. I think I'll kind of jump ahead maybe, I guess, but the power of what we just did here over the last 2 days is it's really aligning with what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Which is also kind of a new avenue that at first seemed a little scary, but now it's all mapped out as how it's possible. And some of those things that are chirping on my shoulder that might be head trash, as we call it, just sort of, evaporated away.
Yeah.
But I guess to your original question, looking back at some of the other events I get, sometimes there's some good tangible action that people can take, strategies, techniques, things like that. But that sort of 50,000-foot view of like, what are we trying to accomplish here, in how the business is shifting and how can we be on the front end of that from planning and whatnot. And it's still customizable for how you want to run your business. It's not, just cookie cutter plug and play. So, I've got a 4-hour flight back to San Diego. I'm excited to let this stuff sink in, but right now the energy's high for sure.
That's great. Well, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but when I remember us first having a Zoom about you coming, and I would label you more in the skeptic group of like, I'm interested, like I'm excited about this, but like, tell me if it's really going to work for me. Like, I want this to be great, and so I really appreciated that. You weren't like a softball call. It was like, okay, this guy Sharp, he knows what he wants. He wants, so that he wants to get out of this. And again, to get on a plane from anywhere, to spend time away from family and work is it's an investment in a lot of different ways. So I want to ask you specifically, what are a few of the things that you're going to go back and you're like, as we like to say in our company, it has to matter on Monday. Mm-hmm. So what are the things that you're like, I'm gonna go do this, like starting next week, because I believe in what I learned. Yeah.
Well, we went through an exercise here yesterday about working with idea partners. So sometimes people have like a hub and spoke of sort of strategic partnerships that they have. And, if I need a tax issue, I'd talk to this guy, or a realtor to this guy. But the list of idea partners is far more impactful. Mm-hmm. We're talking about people that, we're engaging and collaborating with, but they're also sort of sharing ideas from what's going on in their industry. And, I guess the term we would use is we're learning about that, which makes us, enough to be dangerous or helpful. Or helpful enough to be helpful. But it creates a real, link between those partnerships where it's not just, hey, I've got this, I'll send you people, you send me people, because we all know that model doesn't work. Yeah. And you can't control it. But by taking the knowledge that these experts have and sharing it with your community, it brings you up as a thought leader. You're now playing at a higher scale because you're elevating, to an elite level, which is really impactful.
I love the way you said that, because it reminds me of sort of like, when do you go to the person to buy new tires? Like when your tire blows, right? But like, it's different than I'm only going to call you when there's like an emergency, to like, no, I'm going to regularly meet with you and I'm going to learn your best ideas, and then I'm going to share them when the opportunities come up in my world.
Right.
And so for you, it sounds like you're hoping to go back, and is it you're just going to go have a different kind of relationship? Because obviously you have relationships in the business, people who are idea partners. Is it just you're going to change that relationship, or do you actually have to go out and get some more idea partners in addition to that?
I'd say it's a combination. I mean, the people that I'm aligned with now, I kind of know what lane they're in.
Right.
If you take tax, there's all kinds of different forms of tax, or estate planning. There's different versions. So
the next time you meet with them, do you think you're going to have a different kind of conversation?
Yeah. I think for the existing relationships, I'm going to schedule those meetings right away.
Sure.
And say, hey, I just got back from Nashville. Some really cool things, but we should get together. I'd love to catch up and brainstorm a little bit with you on a couple of ideas. So. That's a high impact activity. I'll tell you with another thing that I took away. We did that exercise with the circle, and I got to follow my sword here a little bit. With the circle, I say, how much this is, let's say this is the entire knowledge, that you need to have success and things like that. Draw inside of that what you think, your knowledge is. Yeah. And my circle was almost the same size. It's a total circle.
So what you're saying is, of all the knowledge in the world of all things financial that you could do, and industry and strategies, there's a circle that's 4 inches wide, and yours was 3.9 inches.
Well,
it was almost touching.
Size matters, right? But the point was I was kind of saying to myself, there's different levels of things, but I think I know enough after 25 years to be dangerous in a lot of areas, right?
Yeah. Which is true.
Yeah.
Which is true.
What I missed the point of was, you draw that small circle and then you realize that you might know a lot about what you know, which may be a lot. But the second you walk through a certain door, it just opens up this entire new world, right? Yeah. And so as I got exposed to, the things that are happening in this sort of planning centric, version of a business, I just realized that now there was a lot more that I didn't know. And I wasn't being arrogant. I thought before I was just saying, I know enough to be dangerous. So you can get out there and do planning with people. Don't be afraid that you're not an expert, because I am in certainly some things. But that wasn't the important part. And that translates too when you're talking to clients, because you can say, look, you know a lot about investing. You may not be somebody that just doesn't understand what stock and mutual fund are. You're a seasoned executive. You do know a lot about this. Yeah. But you know what? That circle looks like this, and we're only talking about this. There is an entire, realm of other things that you may not be aware of.
In regards to your finances. So when you're talking to clients, you can say, listen, I know that you know a lot about this, but there's this door that opens, and I love how you said it's sort of like in the Chronicles of Narnia, where it's like there's this huge house and has this one door. And you think, it's just a door. But then you walk through it, and it's another world. And you're like, that door leads to another world. And I think that's the idea that Sten starts the event with, which is, hey, this one idea could open up a lot of possibilities for you. And the idea being, I'm going to have a more planning-focused, planning-centric business. So what is your hope for your business on a practical level based upon the numbers we talked about? Mm-hmm. What would be an ideal for you 6 or 12 months from now when it comes to planning fees?
On like an absolute dollar amount of, look, let's just say we're kind of wrapping up 2023. I mean, I would say that my objective next year for 2024 will be well north of 100,000. Mm-hmm. I think that's my baseline target to go for, starting from essentially zero.
Okay.
And so
you feel equipped from what you learned here on top of your decades of experience, right? But you feel like you've got the systems and you've got the pricing and the service model figured out enough from here. Obviously, you've got to go home and refine, and you've got a plane trip and months ahead to figure it out. But you feel like this can be a 6-figure
for sure.
Please.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, too, that, Eddie, is that, I don't have to go back and day one be the expert that I'll be December 31st next year, right? I know where and this was another exercise we did though, is to kind of create those goalposts within your service matrix. Like, I'm going to offer this over this period of time. I'm going to offer this. And, that's not overly complicated. For everybody, it's going to be a little bit different, right? And so, going back and getting those things started and checked off, and then, we'll refine and keep ramping up along the way. So it's kind of exciting. Walk through that door.
Yeah. Well, and that's where our hope is. I mean, as I was speaking at the end of the event, it was, we want this to be a 100-fold return for the investment. Like, this is not, spend $5K all said and done between plane and hotel and event to go home and make 10K. Like, that's just not that exciting.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
We want this to be a multiple of multiples, and then open you up to clients that otherwise, one, may just not be interested in AUM or insurance, or two, they wouldn't have come if they knew that was just the conversation, but they'll show up if it's a planning conversation. It's a different way to approach clients, and some clients just our leads would not. They're just not interested in starting the conversation that way, but other planning-centric ideas, that it's just a better conversation starter, and conversations lead to meetings, and meetings lead to business.
Strategy sessions.
Strategy
We
sessions.
don't want to call them meetings.
Absolutely. Good catch.
Let me just add one thing to that too that's important, is that it doesn't really matter what your business is, but you typically service a kind of demographic of clientele that might be similar. And for example, if I'm working with tech executives, working with Henry, high income, not rich yet, if you will. Yeah. I didn't see the business mechanics behind it, right? Because it's like, well, he hasn't really saved up assets yet. Yeah. And I wasn't necessarily doing I wasn't doing fees before, but now all of a sudden, this type of client or demographic becomes an option for me, because I have services that can help that person. We can set an engagement for a time frame. There's a cost, and everybody wins. And that was sort of a big aha moment for me too, because the world now, to a certain degree, is a bigger ocean that becomes a potential client that we can really add some value to.
So Henry becomes a client because you don't have to wait for him to get rich in order to help him, because there's other areas of his finances. Right. And this is, again, it's hard because, those who are listening and watching, like, they're advisors, and they think about money in a way that, frankly, most people don't think about money. Like, most people don't wake up and think about their money in the way their advisors do. They're thinking about how much does gas cost, and what's the school tuition and the sports fees, or whatever, they're car payments, whatever. They're not thinking about that 50-year decision, or even the 5-year decision, or tax time comes around and like, oh, I gotta do that again, and they don't question, like, am I paying too much? Where an advisor thinks very differently. And so you've got to be able to talk about more than just AUM and insurance with people, because most people aren't thinking about those things during the day. So if you want to get their attention, you have to be able to touch other areas of their financial life. And the problem is, advisors who don't have a way of getting paid for that, why would you? Why would you talk about those areas if you're not getting compensated to some degree?
That's right.
And so now we have a way for you to do that and help people in the process. So I hope you feel empowered by what you learned. I really appreciated your openness to learning. I think there are people that are part of our community, come to our events, that have been in the business for a few decades. And I would just say, and if you're listening to this, you're not this kind of person, so thank you. But there's a lot of people who just go, no, I'm done. I'm done learning. I want to coast. I don't want anything to change. Don't challenge my thinking. And you're not that kind of person. I appreciate that. The people listening to this, you're not that kind of person or watching this. And those are the people who are going to grow and I think really enjoy the rest of their career versus sort of just like hold out and wait, which is not much of an existence.
When you talk about learning, I'll just kind of add this thing real quickly, is, Sten said at the beginning of the event, you paid money to be here, want you to get your value. And along the way, we had questions, and he says, look, use this time, get your money's worth. Don't be shy. And, people got their, whatever angle they were coming at, they got their questions answered, you know, and that was an important thing, because you don't want to sit in the back and be, you want to make sure you're getting the full value.
Absolutely.
Out of it. And it was an easy environment to do that. I think that's the point I'm making. So, I'm pumped. I'd recommend it, to anybody. It's a no-brainer.
I appreciate it.
And I've seen other testimonials of people that have been here, and you're like, I get it. But I went through it, and it was worth it, and so.
I hope you go back and, experience that 50-fold return. That's my expectation of you, really. And we put that out there because we want to have high expectations of what we deliver. It puts us on the hook to make a better product for you all. And also, I think it's a realistic expectation. If you're going to go execute on this, crush it. Don't kind of do it, crush it. And so I fully anticipate, celebrating that 6-figure 2024 with you for sure.
Elite, not average.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it,
buddy.
Thanks. All right, we have another attendee from the event. It's going to share about their experiences and what you plan to do now that you have to go home and
actually do it.
Actually do it. So tell us who you are, where your business is based out of, and then how long you've been in the industry.
So my name is Benton Penn, and I am out of Huntsville, Alabama. I've been in the industry for 30 years, but planning with clients for about 4.
Okay, awesome. So tell me something that, we have a saying, it has to matter on Monday. You have to ask, there's some things we teach that are inspirational, that's great, and emotional, and you need that. But there's other stuff where it's like, no, I'm going to do something different on Monday morning. And you've already been doing some planning. So what is something really practical, could be big or small, that you're going to change or add or do on Monday based upon what you learned here at How to Charge Live?
Yeah. So for me, it's a real easy answer. If we got nothing other than the whiteboarding ideas, just coming in and showing a value add right up front before we ever talk about a plan, before we ever talk about a fee. With a client, right.
Yeah.
That, to me, was a game changer.
So what have you been doing when you meet with a client? I mean, sit down, small talk, and then illustration, or what's been the current?
So my planning practice, probably as a result of the last 2 days, is going to change dramatically.
Okay.
So where I have been is in retirement distribution planning, which is a good market, but it's completely different than the way I want to move forward, right? Because my head trash, if you will, so I'm just charging too much, and my planning fee is $4,500. I'm not charging too much. I'm charging too little for the value that I can bring, for the ideas.
Yeah. It's funny too. Sten and I are still, we get these ideas and they're not ready to kind of go out fully. But one of them, so we have to kind of let it simmer some more. But you mentioned about head trash, and I appreciate your humility saying that. We all have it. Is that, and there's been studies on this, and so that's where Sten and I are researching the idea a little bit more before we kind of go and do full-on teaching. But this idea of head trash is fascinating because one of the greatest things we've done for human civilization in the last 100, 200 years is just learning how to dispose of our trash better. And if you don't take out the trash, if you want to shut a city down, don't take out the trash. It'll shut a city down, right? And yet in our own minds and hearts, if we let this trash sort of just exist, then it can ruin us, right? And so one of the things we try to do is really challenge the head trash. So in regards to that, when you were coming to the event, you said about 4,500. What was your head trash around how much value you could provide? Like, how much value did you feel like, I bet I could show someone this much value in order to provide $4,500 of a fee? Like, how much, if you quantified that, did you feel like you had in your ideas?
I felt like I had quantified it. So for me, with the clientele that I was serving, if I could show them a way that, one, they're never going to run out of money. We're going to address the secure money needs, and they're going to have the freedom then to go spend money in the 3 phases of retirement, right?
Okay.
To have that fund money and the freedom to spend it. I felt like that was a value. I'm showing that. I'm doing some tax planning, maybe some protection planning, giving them some ideas. So I felt like I was showing them value, but they can almost go to any advisor who will do the same thing, right?
Okay.
It's not rocket science to say, hey, you're getting ready to retire.
Right.
We need to make sure you're never going to run out of money.
Right. So now, how do you feel like you're able to provide a different measure of value? And again, it's not always about charging more. If you can find a great sweet spot of whether it's $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 or whatever it might be, it's not always about, hey, I'm going to get up to 50. Like, we actually discourage people from going that high because then people view you as an employee. But where do you feel like in your ability now that you're able to provide a certain level of value after going through some, at the event, we had you build out plans, whiteboard it together, price those things. So where's your confidence level now with your fees?
So differently. One, the fees are going to go higher because the engagement is going to be much more idea-based. Much more idea-based on something that they can't just get off of the internet, right?
Yeah.
The idea partner concept, getting those idea partners that you can bring into your process to bring value to those, to those clients is huge. And then for me today, when we talked about it, let's change this from a 1 year agreement, because you don't want to work with everybody. I mean, I've gotten into planning arrangements. I'm like, oh gosh, can I get out of this?
Right. Yeah.
To a 3 month, let's do this. Let's do this right. And then we'll decide if we want to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a relatively new teaching to the event and to our platform and to our members about, the different engagement lengths. And so, we talked about that and, here you were able to build out what does that actually look like? How could I deliver a ton of value over the next 3 to 4 months versus 12? What are the pros and cons? We literally have a list of pros and cons, and you don't have to do one or the other, but you could do both. Sten does both. Yeah. But knowing that's an option. So there's way more people who have not been to this event than people who have been to the event. Just, from a practical perspective, financial perspective, what is your expectation for 2024 of how your business could grow in planning fees based upon being a part of this event in late 2023?
This event gave me the tools that I need to move it forward, right? Sure. The process, the tools, the targeting strategies. That's huge. Yeah. Because where do you find the people that you can have the conversation with at a higher level? Yeah. Well, nobody really knows until somebody teaches you how to do that. We got taught how to do that. As far as income level, I think my planning income will double over the next year. Mm-hmm. I think the number of engagements I bring on will go lower because I won't have to do as many, but they'll be very targeted.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope that for you, and we want to be here to support you in that. I appreciate you trusting that this is, the right fit for you, and we look forward to hearing more about your success.
So, Sten, I was talking to Sten downstairs. Here's one other thing I'll say is about the investment. That was a hesitation of mine through 2 cycles of this. I saw you guys schedule it, and then I don't know. And here's what I'd say. There are guys in my firm that I've talked to about this, and I would be willing to go on the line with them and say, hey, if you don't get a value out of it, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, awesome.
The return on the investment of what you guys are trying, you get so much more and right out of the gate. Yeah. It was amazing. Probably the best in my 30 years I've ever paid for. Best investment ever.
Yeah, and that's our hope is that, I understand, in this industry, it's like you live in the world of, hey, make good decisions now because 10, 20, 30 years later, it'll pay off. And that's generally true. But sometimes we just want to do things and have it pay off really fast.
Yeah, right.
And is there another option other than buying a lottery ticket? And there is. And we want to be that option. We want to say hey, we want you to go charge we want you to go charge $4,000 more because you figured out how to do that in a healthy way.
Right.
Next week or 2 weeks from now and get it, and pay for the event multiple times over. So appreciate your willingness to learn and openness. And again, look forward to seeing your success.
Hey, Andy, I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. We've got one more segment here of folks who have been through our How to Charge Live event, September 2023 version. We've got another one coming up in January. And then we also have April. We don't have an April date yet, but probably mid-April sometime. So if you're thinking about coming, we'd love to have you come. howtochargelive.com, howtochargelive.com. So tell folks who you are and how long you've been in the business and just a little bit about your business.
Yeah, you bet. My name is Casey Cooper. I work for a financial planning firm called Lighthouse Financial. I've been in the business a little over 5 years now. Business is made up really targeting executives in the Northwest Arkansas area. Of course, the mother load of that coming from Walmart. It's right in our backyard.
I've heard of Walmart.
Yeah, just behind the bush. You get there.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Tyson and JB Hunter are there too, and so we're very fortunate to be in a position where you can impact a lot of lives and do it pretty significantly.
So 5 years you've been in that area. All 5 years.
All 5 years.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. And so tell me where you came into the event in regards to planning.
Yeah, so we charge clients a one-time planning fee to work with us, and that's to run them through our process that we have. What I really experienced is that we charge them that one time, and then we never charge them again. And we're providing that same service, right? And it's a one-time, lifetime, and it's kind of wrapped in together.
Cool, lifetime membership. That's great.
Yeah,
for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and. We're pretty significant in the way that, we have a cost as an advisor, right? If you work with us, then we have a set rate. And if we work with a money manager, then we add that on top of that set rate. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes clients, what learning, what I'm figuring out here is sometimes clients need the planning, sometimes they don't, right? And that's definitely going to make us look at, being the fiduciary and coming back and saying, okay, well, is this really in the client's best interest, right? We definitely need to be questioning that of new information, right? And that was essentially my job here as one of the partners of the firm. They sent me and said, okay, hey, we need you to, heard this on a podcast, go vet it, right? It seems like it's pretty impactful. So
what's going to be, you have to go home and they're going to say, well, tell us, not necessarily was it worth it? Let's make an assumption it was, otherwise you wouldn't be up here.
Right.
And if you don't think it was, then I'll just edit that out.
Yeah.
But what are you going to summarize to them? Hey guys, we're doing good here, but we really need to fundamentally shift the way we think about this, or this. What is that?
Yeah. So I would say the first topic that we're going to discuss is you need to sit down. So don't be standing up, sit down, because I'm gonna take your legs out from underneath you. I'm gonna blow your mind. And talking to Sten downstairs, and he goes, hey, if you had a hat that you could wear with the top of it just kind of blown off, would you wear that? And I said, that's how I feel. My mind is blown.
Mind blown. Gotcha.
So you don't. The amount of value that you get just from a day and a half, right? It can literally floor you from what you think, how you're positioning yourself in your business right now, the service that you're providing to your clients.
Yeah.
How can you take that to the next step, to the next level, and also still provide even more service to your clients? Because that's what we're in the business to do, right? Just to serve our clients. And, how can I do that better, more effectively?
So what does that look like? You go home and you're going to change what? In regards to if they said, okay, we're going to give you get to set the new fee structure. Mm-hmm. It's not a one time, and then they're in it for life, right? It's not you pay one time, and most businesses I've ever heard of that you pay one time and you get lifetime membership, they'll have mostly one thing in common is they don't stay in business, right? Because it's not sustainable, right?
Right.
So what do you want to change about the way that you're structuring your business as it relates to fees?
Well, so that's a great question. That is that's for me to report back, right, and give some information to the firm. What I would say is you definitely need to take in consideration how you're servicing clients, and if you're bringing that amount of impact, then clients are going to be willing to pay you for that, right? And if you're going to structure your business in a way, and we have control of that, right? As advisors, we definitely have control over how we structure.
But I would say that's unique because for those who aren't doing a planning fee, you don't have that much control over the other fees. You're not like, oh, I want to make this much commission. No, they decide that on our insurance product. Right. Or this is my percent. I want to make 4% on AUM. No, you can't. That's not. So the idea that you would have the freedom to change your fee could be somewhat paralyzing to some people, right? So you're saying I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I know that it's going to be different.
It's going to change, right? It's in my opinion, there's going to be a shift, right? And I think it's a necessary shift that should happen, needs to happen. But I think what I will say from a business standpoint, when we look at the implementation of what this is going to take, right? This isn't just a decision that you make and then move forward, right? I think we've talked about this a lot in the classes. It hasn't started yet, right? The work's not here. We have to put in the work, right? And I think it's building that foundation of what you want it to look like first.
Yeah.
And then it really kind of expanding on that.
Do you feel like, and feel free to say no.
Sure.
Because we want to get better. But one of the things we try to do is say, hey, here's 3 different ways you can do it. We don't really care which one you do. Mm-hmm. You want to do 3-month engagements? Do 3. You want to do 6? You want to do 12? Hey, you want to charge $4,500, great. You want to charge. Now we do say a minimum $3,000, $3,500 because that anything below that generally does not pay for itself. But we try to do a good job of not saying you have to do it this way or you're doing it wrong. Instead of that, just sort of giving you a nice menu. Do you feel like you're going to be able to go home and make a customized one that the rest of your team is going to buy into? I mean, that's really the core of my question is because there's other people that came and they're like, I loved it, and now I want to be able to go home and apply it to the rest of the team or have the rest of the team come back. So do you feel like you're going to be able to customize it for your group?
Yeah, because it's fitting, right? I think it should be for that, right? And it should be and everything that we do, it should be to service the client better, right? And what capacity can we do that? And if it's a 3-month plan, that's fantastic. If it's 12-month, that's great. but finding out the one that's customizable and the freedom and the flexibility to do that, because it's not one size fits all. I think that's what's most important.
Yeah. So somebody's listening. They've seen that we've had 4 or 5 How to Charge Lives in the time they've been watching or listening to the podcast. They're still thinking about coming. Tell them why it might be a good idea for them to come.
So that's a great question. And it was one of the last questions that in the Q&A that we had. And I said, if there's from here in my setting, right, my hat's been knocked off. I've been exposed to things that I haven't thought of, heard of before. If I walk out of here and need 2 things, what are those 2 things?
Yeah.
Right. And the value that you get from the first of those, and this is the one that I'll share of just targeting strategies, right? Of hey, how can you take your idea partners and use those idea partners to get targeting strategies that are specific for prospecting, specific for going after clients, and how you can take that and then own it and then go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that the value in itself from having that just conceptualized is I think is really impactful.
Well, and I would say too, before you talk about the second one, like the visual picture of that is that I drew up was that sort of like there's this huge lake that people think I'm going to go fish there because I bet there's more fish there, but it's the easier one to get to. And targeting strategies require, and we've done other episodes on this, but they require some more legwork, and that, like, imagine you have to walk 2 miles past that pond or that lake to go to another one that's way better. And most people just stop at the big one and go, the industry tells me to cast 1,000 times and I'll get these fish. And we're like, what if you cast 10 times and you got just as many fish? Like, like, yeah, but I got to walk further. I'm like, okay, fine. Then just sit there and stay busy, right? And the industry says, like, be busy. And we're like, no, let's ask another question. Is like, the difference, there's a big difference between busy and effective. Like, you're measuring, it's like activity. Like, there's hamsters, they're busy. Are they effective? No, they're not. No, not generally. They're running on a wheel, right? And so that's what we want to help people break out of, is be more effective. The second thing that was mentioned was joining the Elite Advisor Network. And that's a community of advisors. Again, we're expanding the company and hired some more to our coaching staff for that. Sten and I will continue to be involved. But, we're also serious about that. And I just wanted to ask you, just based on the people at this event, like, were you surprised or was it interesting to you, like, the variety of people? I mean, you had no idea who else was coming. So what was your impression of, you were at the chatty table.
We were.
We were. So a good group of guys back there. So what was your impression of the other people at the event? You never know. You're like, oh, who's coming to this thing?
Right. And so there were, how many folks were at this
We
one?
had about 25. About 25. A couple dropped because of some stuff. But the room, we only sell 30 tickets.
It was pretty full. But yeah. And so the table that we were at, there was somebody else that had been in the industry for quite a bit. And then the rest were new, right? They were just getting involved in this. And so it's through all phases of the actual business career cycle, right? Folks that just started, folks that have been in it for a little bit of time, folks that have been in there for 30 plus years, right? So it's not a one size fits all, and it's it's a cut and dry pace for just one person. It's not it at all, right? There's definitely a spot for each and every person here.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope that your expectation for next year is big for you and for your company.
Absolutely.
I hope that you'll consider having them come to participate in this as well. I think you'll be a great messenger for that. But also, being here is a big deal, and we'll continue to do more of these. And I want to thank you for being here, but also for trusting us and investing in yourself. And we have high expectations for you.
It was a great event. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Well, I trust that those conversations were helpful to you. Again, if you're interested in attending one of our future events, just go to howtochargelive.com and you can either book your ticket there, or if you have other questions, you can reach out to us and we'll meet with you one-on-one to make sure those get answered. Thank you again for those who volunteered to be a part of today's podcast recording. And thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate your reviews on iTunes, your stars on Spotify, and any other feedback you might have for us. So keep up the good work. We're rooting for you. And if you have any questions, we're here to help. Thanks.